First is that Central Luzon is showing strong signs that it is recovering from the pandemic. The gross regional domestic product, or the GRDP level of the region, is back to its 2019 pre-pandemic level. We are the third largest regional economy and a major contributor to the national economy with an 8.1% GRDP growth in 2022. The employment rate at 94.9% in 2022 is also back to its 2019 rate. However, there are risks and uncertainties that remain which must be managed. These include accelerating inflation, health risks, disasters, and other emergencies. Nevertheless, Central Luzon has good prospects and potentials that can be unleashed. The region has a large working age population whose income earning ability and contribution to productivity can be increased through human capital development. This will ensure that we realize the demographic dividends from having more earners than dependents. The region is also known for its food production capacity. We have made large investments, especially in infrastructure, and as mentioned by Secretary Jaime Bautista earlier, several big ticket projects are ongoing or in the pipeline. But beyond recovery, we need economic and social transformation to adapt to the new normal and ensure inclusive and resilient prosperity. With this goal, we now have the Central Luzon Regional Development Plan 2023 to 2028, together with the Philippine Development Plan. This coherent and holistic plan is designed to bring the region closer to realizing Ambition Natin 2040, our long-term vision of a matatag, maginhawa at panatag na buhay for all of us. Let me now go through some details of these key messages. So, indicative of recovery at the national level, the Philippine economy continued to grow after experiencing an economic downturn due to the pandemic. The gross domestic product grew by 7.6% in 2022 from 5.7% in 2021. Meanwhile, the economy of the region remains robust and continues to grow. At the end of 2022, the gross regional domestic product was valued at 2.19 billion pesos at constant prices. It grew at a rate of 8.1%, which is higher than the national economy's growth rate of 7.6%. It's lower in first quarter 2023, but this is the usual trend in the first quarter of the year. Now, as mentioned, Central Luzon's economic output is now back to its pre-pandemic level. Central Luzon contributed 11% to the Philippine economy and remains the third biggest regional economy in 2022, following Calabarzon and the National Capital Region. In the same period, all major sectors of the economy showed signs of unwavering vitality and dynamism. Our industry sectors spearheaded the economic expansion. The services sector accounts for the biggest share of Central Luzon's economy, followed by the industry sector and then the agriculture sector. All three major sectors of the regional economy posted positive growth, and growth in agriculture and industry sectors even exceeded the national growth rates. Despite the uncertainty in the global business environment, Central Luzon continues to enjoy the confidence of domestic and foreign investors. It generated a total approved investments of 169.3 billion in 2022, making it the most preferred investment destination next to Calabarzon. The strategic location of Central Luzon, complemented by a modern and disaster-resilient infrastructure base, highly skilled workforce, generous fiscal and non-fiscal incentives, and other advantages, continue to make the region an ideal investment haven in the Asia-Pacific region. Importantly, our labor market situation is improving as the demand for and supply of workforce show vim and vigor with a gradual easing of general community quarantine measures. The labor force participation rate in the region is at 61.5%. This is still quite low, so we have to increase it further. But based on the estimate of the Philippine Statistics Authority, the region posted an average employment rate of 94.9% in 2022. The figure is 2.4% higher relative to the figure recorded last year. Meanwhile, the underemployment rate, or the percentage of the employed persons who express the desire to have additional hours of work in the present job or to have additional job, or to have a new job with longer working hours was estimated at 8.6% of those employed. Although 1.3 percentage points higher than the statistics in 2021, this rate is better than the national average of 14.2%. Indeed, we are now reaping the dividends of this steady socioeconomic rebound from the pandemic. Despite perceived and real difficulties at this time, economic growth is becoming inclusive, as shown in the labor market indicators. Nevertheless, we must continue to attract more domestic and foreign investments that would generate more decent jobs and better quality and high-paying jobs in the regional economy. Let me emphasize that more has to be done to increase production, especially in agriculture and manufacturing, so we can have more commodities to trade. And as I will mention later, servicification will be an important strategy for us to move up the value chain. Now turning to tourism, despite inflationary pressures, the tourism sector of the region remained in the pink. The increase in the number of flights, passengers, and cargo was a positive sign of the travel industry's recovery. The tourism industry cemented an excellent performance and indicated a strong rebound after receiving more than 3.8 million visitors last year. The figure represents an 85% increase relative to 2021. Such positive development means a lot to us. It only shows our unique ability to bounce back as the numbers today draw closer to pre-pandemic levels. Yet while we have reasons to believe we have truly bounced back, there remain risks and uncertainties that we need to manage to sustain our recovery and bring us back to a high growth trajectory. First of all is high inflation, which persisted in the region in 2022. Average inflation rate was estimated at 6.5%, higher than the national average of 5.5%. Just to cite a few details, commodity groups such as transport, alcoholic beverages and tobacco, housing, and food and non-alcoholic beverages contributed to the region's faster inflation rates. Nonetheless, our strong macroeconomic fundamentals and proactive efforts to institutionalize reforms have managed to cushion inflationary pressures throughout 2022, sustain expansion of the regional economy, and achieve a level of economic growth that is desirable to accelerate recovery. Generally, inflation in the region is expected to temper in the coming months as the national government implements a set of monetary and non-monetary measures to keep prices of basic goods and services stable. And as Central Luzon is the country's food basket and is envisioned to become an agri-industrial economy, we hope the region can contribute significantly to efforts to bring down inflation, especially of food. Disasters and pandemics are also remaining uncertainties. The battle with the COVID-19 still persists. In terms of flooding susceptibility, 45% of the region's existing production areas are classified moderately to highly susceptible to flooding. As weather disturbances become more intense and climate change, the region has to contend with such risks and its concomitant adverse effects. Nonetheless, our prospects remain good and we have growth potentials remaining to be unleashed. Central Luzon is endowed with a population of 12,422,172 based on the 2022 Census of Population and Housing released by the PSA. It is the third largest in the country, accounting for 11.39% of the national population. Central Luzon boasts a population structure where about 65% of its citizens belong to working age population or 15 to 64 years. From a development perspective, this kind of demographic structure presents a good opportunity to further bolster economic growth. The region's population characteristic augurs well for a demographic sweet spot, or the state when the size of a country's working age population is relatively larger than its dependents. The region is also blessed with different kinds of bodies of water, lands that are lush and fertile, and a climate that is favorable in growing various kinds of high-value crops and raising livestock, poultry, and other farm animals. Central Luzon was a major contributor to the country's agricultural production. It is the top producer of rice with 18.31% share in the national output of the subsector. It ranked first in terms of production of various fishery and poultry products, such as tilapia, tiger prawn, mud crab catfish, chicken meat, and duck eggs. Baka po nagutom kayo doon sa enumeration. But there are also large investments, especially in infrastructure, that have been made, and several big-ticket projects are ongoing or in the pipeline. To support the realization of the vision for Central Luzon to become a vibrant agri-industrial heartland and global gateway supported by balanced ecosystems, several strategic capital projects are being pushed to be developed, implemented, and completed in the medium term through the use of national government funds, official development assistance, and private-public partnerships. With these undertakings, we hope to accelerate connectivity and linkages, food security, human capital development, disaster resiliency, energy, housing, and industrial development in order to create jobs, increase incomes, strengthen the investment climate, and achieve inclusive growth. Still more has to be done. We need to make sure our efforts are concerted and aligned towards realizing our vision. Beyond recovery, we need economic and social transformation to adapt to the new normal and achieve inclusive and resilient prosperity. Let me just show this slide from a few years ago to remind ourselves that we remain committed to our long-term vision. There are at least 4 administrations that need to work towards this vision. We need continuity. We need to ensure that we have a progression of plans instead of changing plans each time. Nonetheless, there has to be some flexibility to adapt to unexpected developments, such as pandemics and new technological breakthroughs, as well as changing needs and preferences. As mentioned, I used this slide several years ago when we launched Ambisyon Natin 2040 in 2015. So, andito pa po yung ambisyon natin and we're still continuing. Despite being disrupted by the pandemic, we are now back on track with a second medium-term development plan geared towards Ambisyon Natin 2040. The whole of government, in collaboration with the private sector, formulated the Central Luzon Regional Development Plan 2023 to 2028. And this plan serves as the region's overall blueprint in development planning for the next 6 years. It reflects the government's policies, strategies, programs, and legislative priorities in support of and consistent with the socio-economic agenda of the current administration. The plan aims to reinvigorate job creation and accelerate poverty reduction by steering the regional economy back to its high growth trajectory and affect economic and social transformation for a prosperous, inclusive, and resilient society. I invite you to download a copy of the PDP and RDP from the NEDA websites, which I included in my last slide. Let me just highlight 6 cross-cutting strategies that will serve as catalysts for economic, social, and institutional and environmental transformation. So one is digitalization, public-private partnerships, servicification, dynamic innovation system, enhanced connectivity, greater collaboration between local and national government. These strategies are embedded in each chapter or sector, and I trust that each of you here has the drive and imagination to help translate these into concrete steps and actions. But just to explain the framework a bit, can you go back to the previous slide, sorry? Yeah. So the red parts here, I'm sorry, I realize you cannot see them, but the red parts are about empowering individuals, families, and communities. So we aim for human development and social transformation. Ito yung medyo short term po. And the green parts are on the economy, so we aim to transform our production sectors to create more quality jobs and competitive products. And the blue ones are foundational strategies for all strategies to work. These are about upgrade and expansion of infrastructure, good governance, inclusive finance, peace and security, and disaster resilience. The subsector outcomes spelled out in the plan are also provided under each sector outcomes. And all these outcomes will enable the realization of our vision. Next slide, please. So the regional target, so we aim for the following targets in the medium term: 6.2 to 9.3% annual GRDP growth rate, inflation rate stable at 2.2 2 to 4% for 2024 up to 2028, and then poverty is at 4.5%. Unemployment is 5 to 6%. Our targets are ambitious, especially the growth POP, as Central Luzon is seen to lead the growth of other regions, especially in Northern Luzon. And we supply commodities and services to other parts of the country and even outside. And in this regard, trade and logistics are crucial parts of our development plan so that even the poor will be able to contribute to and benefit from the growth of Central Luzon and the rest of the country. We have accomplished much, but more remains to be done to sustain our progress. Only through concerted and collective efforts could we really lay down the strong foundation for inclusive growth, a high-trust society, and a globally competitive knowledge economy. In conclusion, our vision is clear and our plan is holistic and cohesive. Ito ang plano para sa samang pag-unlad, pagtulungan po nating ipatupad, pagtutuloy lang ang aksyon para sa ating ambisyon. Maraming salamat po.